Hey, welcome to our episode of Chad's Beer Podcast. Very long overdue. This episode, I'm talking with Mateo, aka the beer reviewer on Instagram. What's going on, man?
How's it going?
You got any of
Honored to
that
be
Chimay
here.
White left? I finished all
Uh,
mine.
oh no, I finished. That's such an easy drinking beer. Like, I mean, you can knock back three of those, and then you probably knock back yourself after that.
I know they used to come. Well, I'm sure they still come in 750 ml bottles, but I feel like I can never find anything bigger than like 16-ounce cans anymore. Like I don't know what the beer selection's like where you live, but like Total
it,
Wine or even like the
it was
independent
funny
distillers.
because at first, when I went to go buy this, I only saw the 750 milliliter bottles, and I
Mhm,
was thinking to myself, "There's no way I'm gonna drink all that by myself," because my wife, she like Belgians aren't really her thing.
mhm,
We often share beer, but she just doesn't like the phenols, like the clove and banana. That's not really her
mhm,
cup of tea. So I was like, man, I'm not gonna, I guess I'll have to buy it. And then I grabbed it, and then I saw like on a different shelf. I don't know why they had them separated, but on a different shelf they had the little bottles that we tried.
yeah,
So
12
I was
ounce.
glad. But now I'm kind of regretting. I probably could have drank a whole 750 by myself with that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I could too, definitely, but so I have a bunch of these Aldi, Gruner German Pilsners in the fridge, so that's what I'm drinking now. It's funny because like, there's some other beers I had in the fridge that I wanted to open, and I looked at them, they were like 10, 11% ABV, and I'm like, maybe this is the middle of the afternoon," but
Nice. I opened. I love Half Acre.
Mhm.
Um, so before Land Shook, their barley stout is vanilla, marshmallow, and sea salt. But I mean, the ABV at 17% on that
Holy
one.
shit.
So it's a good thing to do the 12-ounce cans.
What style is it?
It's just a pastry stout, just
Oh,
imperial
okay.
pastry stout. Then of course I always have to have the proper glassware, matching glassware when I can.
Wow, 17%, wow. I just did
Yeah.
a, I had this, Mari bourbon barrel aged pastry stout from Evergreen Brewing that I got on Tavour, and that
Okay.
was
Yeah.
14.6. I reviewed that a few days ago. It was really good.
Yeah. Evergreen does good stuff. I've had a handful. Um, I was was is still am a big supporter of the Black is Beautiful movement, and they
Mhm.
did one, and I had theirs, and I remember theirs being memorable. Because I mean I've had over 200 different ones, and eventually all those just kind of blend together. But I remember theirs
Uh,
stood out. I'm pretty sure it had vanilla in it.
yeah. Um, I just wanted to show, for the viewers at home who aren't familiar with you, I just wanted to show, your Instagram page. So it's just your Instagram.com/beer_reviewer. You got a lot of followers, 8,500. And, how long have you been doing Instagram for?
Since I started drinking, so this is shout out to my homeboy Greg. He was my roommate in college. We're still friends to this day.
Mhm.
I started doing home reviews. I was using that website Beer Advocate,
Yeah.
and Beer Advocate kind of made you uh, put everything in detail. And so I would literally handwrite all my notes. And Greg was like, "Hey, you should do an Instagram of this." I'm like, "Bro, nobody's gonna care about what I say. Like, this is just for me." And he kept bugging me and bugging me. So finally, I did it. And yeah, at some point, man, I was getting a lot of reactions, and I was getting 400, 500 likes a post. And then I don't know, something happened with the algorithm, and it changed, and now I get like 30. And but I've always done it for fun. This is nothing
Yeah.
nothing I've ever been paid for. Nobody sponsors me. I've always done it because I like to do it.
So what do you use? Like, cause I see, like, this text on the picture here. Are you doing that on your phone, or are you downloading it on your computer and then doing that?
I do that on my phone, so it's an app called PixArt.
Mhm.
You can upload any font you want, and so what I try to do is I try to match the font of that to the best
Oh,
I
to, like,
can
the
of the can
label?
art.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it's I've never seen anybody do that. I think it's a little fun twist. And if you don't want to sit there and read my review, at the very least, you can say, "Oh, okay, what did he rate this?" because
Yeah.
I understand sometimes people just don't want to sit there and read stuff. Time's precious. You kind of just want to scroll, click. So at the very least, and of course, I always post when I go to a new brewery. I
Hmm.
post who I go with. Sometimes by myself, like in that one. You can see the other ones I was with friends.
Yeah. I'm looking at your I don't know, maybe it's just the most recent ones, but it seems like everything on here gets at least a 4 or higher. Like, so you
If
only
you
chase,
scroll
like,
up,
those whales or
yeah. So if you scroll up, I think I recently did a pumpkin beer review, and I think I gave it a 3.75.
Slave
Um,
Soul, that's a 3.5.
yeah, that one was. I mean, 3.5 to me. That's mediocre. Is it bad? No. Is it good? No. Can you drink it? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, for me,
And
yeah,
that's
for
what it
me,
was to me.
3.5, that's a 7 out of 10, that's, like, good, it's, like, not great.
I
Um,
rate also two, going back to Beer Advocate,
mhm,
one through five. So I don't go below one. One is the lowest score I can possibly give. Um,
mhm,
which I think that does kind of skew, right? Because I know some people can give zeros or give 0.25, zero point 0.5. But being that old school, um, where it's you either don't rate it or you rate it a one being the worst. So I
mhm,
think some of my ratings do kind of skew upward because of that.
mhm,
Because like what I consider, so like my scale 3.0 is that's passable. Like it's not
yeah,
good, but I'll drink it. And then anything below, 2.75 and below, now we're getting to like this is just different levels of bad. Like
yeah.
how bad is this truly?
Where these ones with the white background, where were these taken?
So I do a lot of shares. So those were at my friend's house. We had a wheel
Oh, okay.
share. Um, so yeah, you'll know like side project, open some
Mhm.
KBBSs.
Yeah, I noticed you have a lot of these Black is Beautiful, I've only ever had one of those.
Do you
One
remember which one it was?
um, I can look it up. By the way, so I just wanted to show here's your, Untapped. So you're coming up on 10,000 beers, 8,700 unique. You got a lot more than I mean, I thought I had a ton because like I'm at about I'll just bring it up right here. I'm
But
at
this is crazy to see this on a website. Like both
yeah,
Instagram and Untapped. I've only seen this on phone format. So I'm
yeah,
looking at you scrolling and I'm like, wow, this is kind of trippy.
yeah. Let's see here. If we I know I did a video review of one of those. Let's see if I can spell it right. Fremont Brewing.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that was
Fremont's was
4 years ago.
I want
I think
theirs
I gave
was
that a 10 actually.
unadjunct. Theirs was unadjunct, and I think theirs was one of the best non-adjunct versions I had was
Mhm.
with Fremont. Them and Pint House Brewing up in Austin. Um, theirs were just I don't know. They just did something different with their base, and like I said, they didn't add like vanilla or coffee or anything to it. And I thought
Yeah,
theirs was great.
I put that I said fantastic unadulterated, like
Yeah,
no
there you
additives
go.
or anything. Um, yeah, so anyways, just wanna get back to your Instagram here. This your wife?
Yeah, that's my wife
Okay.
Jess.
And you're in,
That was our
San
Colorado trip.
Antonio?
Yeah, yeah, we're in San Antonio.
Yeah. I was I was gonna say, we gotta come up with like a brand name for you or something because like you're just beer reviewer. So like I don't know if you use Chat GPT or not. Like when we were on a break, I asked it to come up with some names. So
Uh,
here's some names that it suggested for you. Mateo's Multi Musings, the Lone Star Sipper, Hops and Harmony, Barrels and Brews, San Antonio Suds. That's actually a pretty good one.
that does sound pretty cool.
Um, Texas Tap Takeover, maybe Billy. Lone Star Sipper, I think is good. Mateo's Multi Musings, that's kind of
I do like alliteration. That triple
yeah,
M in that is great.
yeah. I mean, you could ask it to give you a like if I said give me 100 more suggestions, it would,
Yeah.
or you could even say give me 1,000 more or 10,000 more, and it'll come up with it. But yeah. So you got 8,500 followers. You said you've been using Instagram for a while. Like, do you remember like exactly when you started using it?
Would have been think so. Let's see. When did I turn 21? Was 2012, 2013?
Yeah. Wow. Like
Yeah, because I
12.
yeah, because I graduated high school 2010, so I guess relatively young. I'm young to the old people, but I'm old to the young people. I'm at that age.
Yeah.
But yeah, I graduated high school 2010. So yeah, 2013 is when I started drinking. I mean, the first day I turned 21, we have a local store, HEB. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that, at least know the name, even if you're
Yeah.
not from Texas. But
It's a supermarket chain, right?
yeah, yeah, great one, love it. And one of the great things is they have what's called a pick six, and what they'll do is they buy these packs of beer, 4 packs, 6 packs, and they split them up for you, and they let you choose. They let you buy singles, which
Yeah.
not every store does. And so going to HEB, I was in college, and I would walk past it every time I'd go grocery shopping. I was like, man, I can't wait till the day I turn 21. And I remember, I'll never forget the day because it was a Saturday. It was cool. Like, why not, turn 21 on a Saturday? And I went grocery shopping, and I bought a mixed 6 pack of beer. And the first one I opened up was Sam Adams Boston Lager.
Hmm. That was your first beer, or just your first legal
That was my
beer?
first legal beer.
Do you have what's like your beer origin story? Did you drink like in high school, like in the woods, and like or keggers or whatever, or
That's funny. No, I was a big nerd in high school. So I was never invited to parties. I just never had an opportunity to go. I think the first time I drank was my senior year, and it was at a friend's house. It was just like a kickback. It was like me and like 3 friends, and like their uncle bought them like Bud Light, and so we were just
oh,
drinking Bud Light in the garage. Um, but yeah, college. I started noticing like all these other different beers, like Bush Light was super. Oh, is that your cat?
yeah.
Oh, nice. I have 2 orange cats as well.
He wants his dessert because they just had dinner.
Oh, nice.
Just gonna
Yeah, I
wait for.
love cats. That's kind of why I came into the room, because I knew my female cat Lily. She would be all up in this camera. But
Yeah,
yeah, just like I didn't really drink too much until I started getting to college, and that's when, like I said, going to HEB, I'd walk past this beer aisle, and I was like, man, there's a lot more than Bud Light and Bush Light and Keystone, all these. And
yeah,
just as soon as I turned 21, I just started exploring different things, and just fell in love with beer.
yeah. I'm trying to remember. Like, I never really was like when I was in high school and even in college. Like, I was never like a big drinker or like was like drawn to it. Like, oh, I can't wait to. Like, I just like seen it in movies and TV shows. Like, they like just like the cliche of like high school kids and college kids. Have frat parties and keggers or
Yeah,
whatever. And it's funny because like almost every American you talk to has like a very similar story. Where like, when was your first drink? When you were 21? No, when I was in high school. Which
yeah,
goes to show how the drinking age laws are so pointless and stupid.
yeah.
Um, but actually, my like beer epiphany or whatever was so. What year were you born?
92.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
Oh,
born in '76. I'm a lot older than
okay.
you. So I joined the Navy in 2001 before 9/11,
Oh,
and
wow.
then
Okay.
yeah, so like I didn't get to my ship until 2002, and then
Appreciate the
I
service,
didn't
by
go
the way.
overseas until 2004. And I remember like every time we would go to a different country, I would just get whatever beer they had there, like I had never heard of. And like they come in like different, like it's funny because I'm drinking a gold beer right now. Usually, whatever they would have was like red or brown, or black.
Amber or something like that.
Yeah, something other than this, and I'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is delicious." And then, like they would have like they have like a package store on base that has like which relatively good selection, and they didn't let you mix a six, but what I would do is just like once a week, like I would just go in and just grab a 6 pack I had never seen or heard of before, and kind of gamble on it. And that was kind of like my introduction to like beer. And also then like that's about when like Sam Adams and Magic Hat, Saranac, like those big like national or regional craft breweries, like because they always have variety pack like every quarter, like the
Yeah.
spring one, the summer one, the fall, and I always love just like trying the different seasonal beers. And it's funny because like I mean I wouldn't really consider like Sam Adams Saranac Magic Hat to be like super high quality by today's standards, but I mean they're certainly much better than Blue Moon and Leinenkugels and um
Oh yeah, for
you know
sure.
those
Which
those are great beer 101, stepping on courses.
yeah,
I
I've had a
remember,
couple line and Kugels. It was I don't know if you saw. Did you see that they closed the Wisconsin location or closing? I don't know if they already closed it yet.
oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, it was
I
a
think I heard about that.
big heartbreak, especially for like the locals because they've been around for I think like decades.
Yeah, but they've been owned by, I think, Coors or Miller for,
One
like
one of those. I don't think it was
yeah,
AB InBev, but one of the other ones.
at least a decade,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I saw some comments too. It's like even big beer money can't save you sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, well, they make, real, like, basic bitch beer, very plain. Um, and it's funny because, um, actually now a lot of those brands like Blue Moon and, Blue Point and, like, a lot of other like, I think even, like, Sweetwater, they're owned by Tilray Brands. 'Cause it's funny because they were owned by, like, Anheuser-Busch, and they sold them to Tilray,
I haven't heard
and
of Tilray.
yeah, like, those big companies will email me all the time, be like, "Hey, you want some free beer to review?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then 9
Nice.
times out of 10, it's, like, it's, like I mean, it's not god awful or anything, it's just kinda lame, like, they
Yeah,
sent me the Shock Top Twisted Pretzel a few weeks ago,
I've
and
had that.
it's one of those beers, like, the first few sips is good, and then just, like, the more you drink it, it's just like, "Ugh."
I have one of the cool thing about my pages is every once in a while I'll have breweries hit me up and they're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, like if we send you beer, will you review it?" I'm like, "For free? Yeah, yeah, of course."
Yeah. Can't
I've had
guarantee I'm gonna like it.
yeah, I'll tell them too. I'm honest in my review. I'm not gonna bump you up. And they're like, that's cool. That's what we want. We want an honest review. And nowadays, I don't get the interaction I used to. And so I still have people, breweries hit me up and I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I may not get the interaction you're looking for. And all of them still say, that's cool. We'll still send you something. I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna, if you're gonna send me free alcohol, like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
stop you.
Yeah. By the way, you have a much better beard and hair than I do.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a
You
little bit
you
younger
don't have
though,
any
but I think
gray yet.
no, no, thankfully not.
You get a full head of hair too. I still got
No, I mean, I'm looking like this. This used to be here, so
uh-huh.
it's going there eventually.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so you're in, San Antonio. Isn't Jester King in San Antonio?
Jester King's in Austin,
Oh, okay.
which is only an hour and a half away. But Jester King is my favorite brewery. Period. I think, in my opinion, they're doing the best. I think they're doing the best wild ales on the planet. A lot of people say 𝗕𝗘𝗏. People, what's another one? Casey, Floodland. I know Floodland's really, really popular.
Mhm.
But I love what Jester King's doing. I think their funk profile is it's identifiable. Like I'm almost certain, and I would love to do this. I think it'd be a fun like live video to do. Like I'm pretty sure if you put like 10 wild ales in front of me, I'm gonna be able to at least pick out which one's Jester King.
Really? Wow.
Uh, yeah, I love them so much. Jeff, one of the owners, he's super cool. He's down to earth. Like I've asked him like home brewing questions, and um, I half expected him to be like, no, I'm not gonna tell you these are my secrets. And he just started talking, and like going like all this and that. And I was like, wow, like he was just like spitting out knowledge. I'm like, I can't absorb this much knowledge in one conversation.
Yeah. One of
Yeah.
my favorite we can actually get a few Jester King beers here in Orlando, and my favorite beer of theirs is the, Le Petit Prince. It's like
Oh,
3.4
dude, it's
or
like
something.
yeah, it's such ridiculously low alcohol. you would
Mhm.
have to chug like 10 of them to feel anything, but it's so much flavor. It's crazy
Yeah.
how they do it.
To me, that beer is like lemonade, you know? It's
Yeah,
definitely
you get
it's
like
like
a nice
they call it like a
lemon
mixed
zest
culture
from it.
fermentation or something. It's sour, but but it's like an all natural sour. It's not like, quick kettle sour.
Yeah, it's not no, none of their stuff is kettle sours. They everything they do is from their wild yeast. So they're saying it is beer tied to time, place, and people.
Mhm.
Because and I'm assuming have you ever been?
No, I was in Texas in, the summer of was it 2009. I was in, Wichita Falls, which is close to Dallas or so. Actually, it's close to, like, the Oklahoma border.
Oh yeah, that's way up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I only left the base, like, once or twice. We went to a Rangers game and, we went to the mall, like, once, but I was just there for, like, my school for my job in the Navy Reserves. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it's funny because I got there in August, and it would be, like, 100, 110 degrees every day, and then I left in October, and it was, like, the opposite, like, it was, like, freezing, you know? Like, cause like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends where in Texas you are, but, like, a lot of Texas is, like, desert, and, like, desert is, like it's super hot during the day, and then as soon as the sun goes down, it's freezing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you
How's
were
it
in that
like in
kind of
San Antonio?
weird, like western pocket part.
Mm,
Because as soon as you cross a certain point, like you get just, I mean, like San Antonio, we're in the middle of like I guess previously what was like Greenland, like it was just
mhm.
forest out here. Like where I live, if I just look out my door, there's a forest. Just like the our community was built around the forest. So yeah, I mean, we're in San Antonio. It's horribly humid. Like right now, we're in the 70s. It felt like I was sweating. I came. I told you this. I came from graduation. My cousin, little cousin, graduated, got her master's, and walking back to the car, I was just drenched. It was just so humid out here.
Yeah,
But no. So the point I was making. So if you go to Jester King, it's in the middle of nowhere. You're on this really long, windy road, and they're on like this 50 plus acre ranch that they
mhm,
actually bought the land from the actual rancher, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. You're sipping on beer. It's just they don't have an actual building that you drink in. It's just like this covered, like it looks like a big log cabin that you just walk. That's open space. Just
mhm.
have fans going,
Like a
and
pavilion.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Mm,
It's a wooden pavilion, and it's just there's dirt floor, and you're just drinking farmhouse ales and authentic farmhouse brewery, and it's
mhm.
I think it's beautiful. Like you have to go. Like if you love those styles, I would highly
Yeah.
recommend.
They do more than just, like, wild ales and like, cause I know, like, their biggest like, their claim to fame, like, I had heard of them when I used to live in New York, was their imperial stout. It's like
Black
metal
metal.
something. Yeah, black
Black
metal. Actually,
metal, yeah.
it's probably in my book.
Oh, it made it into a book?
Yeah, so I and, 10 years ago, I co-wrote this book, The Handbook of Porters and Stouts. Um,
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
the only problem with this book is there's no index, so it's like
Okay.
it's hard to, like, look something up specifically, but I'm pretty sure that one's in here. Let's see, imperial stouts. No, I don't think it's in here. I mean, I just saw Brooklyn, oh, here's 2 that I haven't had in a long time, Dark Lord and Darkness.
Oh, sure, by Shirley, yeah. Well, Darkness by Shirley and Dark Lord, yeah.
Yeah. I remember those used to be, and I guess they still are, kinda white whales. I mean, we can't get actually, when I used to live in, Lakeland, which is closer to Tampa, I would go to Tampa every once in a while, and the Total Wines out there, they would get a lot of the Surly beers. So I actually did get Surly Dark.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Is it did that include the barrel age or just the base?
No, just the standard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I remember way back when barrel aged darkness, that was a whale beer back then, old money. That was hard
Mhm.
to get a hold of. People were paying, 100, $150 for that on the secondary market just to get that beer.
Yeah. What's your record for like what's like the most expensive bottle you ever bought?
Oh man, my wife would kill me. It was I spent it was 800 on a 2016 Hanji, the Dark Lord Hanji. And this was in 2019. So yeah, the bottle was 3 years by now, but for some reason that year was just I mean Hanji's a very hyped beer, but
Mhm.
for some reason the 2016, and that was back when they had the foil logos, like everything was foiled on. It wasn't an actual paper label. Um and
How do you spell it?
Yeah,
I wanted to look it up. Dark Lord what?
it's a Hanji, HANDJEE, Hanji. The 2016, and it had an astronaut like with a dead astronaut. It had an astronaut like a skull,
Oh, okay.
helmet, and um,
It's a weird
that
name.
yeah, I think it's a play. Hanji hand job. I think it's supposed to be funny off of that.
All I see
It's
is
Dark Lord. They're a little irreverent, but they're
all I see
humorous.
are marshmallow
Yeah,
iteration.
Marshmallow Hanji. I think that's the full name. Hold on, let me see. It's on my Untapped, and I
Yeah.
just remember it being it to this day. It is the best vanilla beer I've ever had.
It's got a pretty cool label, I guess.
Yeah, you see the astronaut right with the skull.
Um, this one looks like a heavy metal album cover or something.
Oh yeah, those are try to look up 2016 because they changed it after that. I think they stuck to that in 2017 they went with that design and it's been like that since. Yeah, they just changed colors. But yeah, if you look up the 2016, it's a different one.
I
Yeah,
wish
there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's the
I wish
one.
Three Floyds distributed down here. I when I lived in New York, 'cause I don't know if you know or not, like I started this show in when I used to live in Albany, and like the first half of the show was all in Albany, New York. And actually we had which is actually a really good beer town. And I met so
Upstate.
many people online and I did trades with people. And I got a bunch of like
Oh, I think your mic went out.
yeah,
Oh.
I just like touched the cord
Yeah,
and
just
it unplugged. I'm so like I said, if you breathe on this thing wrong, it'll unplug. Um, yeah, so I haven't done a beer trade in a long time, but like I don't really feel the need to anymore. I mean, 'cause, also the market that I live in, like I don't like have anything to offer. You know, it like you would think like
you're in Orlando, right?
yeah, you would think like we would get like some of those like funky Buddha crazy beers or the Cigar City, but
Yeah.
Cigar City, like, only offers that stuff, like, in Tampa, and Funky Buddha's is, like, in Miami, and, like, Orlando doesn't get anything. So,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
know
like
Orlando, you'll have what tactical and what is it, sideward?
yeah, Tactical yeah, it's funny because Tactical is within walking distance of the VA.
Oh, I love tactical. I've had some of their stuff. They do great stuff. And then sideward, I've only had their black is beautiful, but theirs was also great too. I haven't had
Y
anything else from them.
There's a brewery called Broken Strings, and they make a really good, black IPA
Okay.
called, like, Liquid Vinyl, I think. Although I think actually that brewery was, like, on the verge of, um, closing. I don't know, do you
Oh
follow,
man.
do you know who Darwin is from Darwin's Beer Reviews?
Mm-mm.
Well, he's one of the biggest, beer tubers, as we call ourselves, and, like, he started out in New York City, and he actually it's funny because I moved to Sanford in 2018, and he moved here about, like, 6 months or a year later, and he, like, moved, like, just, like, a few miles from me just by sheer coincidence,
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
yeah, so we got to know each other, and, like, because he has, like, a pretty huge following on YouTube. And, like, he's constantly getting stuff sent to him, like Treehouse and Tired Hands and like whatever is like the it brewery of the moment, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like telling Darwin, man, you gotta hook me up with your mules or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't had a Treehouse beer since I moved to Florida. When I lived in Albany,
Oh, wow.
I had a friend there that would drive to Treehouse or to what's the one in Vermont, Hill Farmstead. People would just drive there on the weekends and go and they wait in line and pick up beer, you know.
Oh yeah,
You
and then I know a
that
lot of
stuff
people flip those bottles.
yeah, I'm sure have you ever had anything from Treehouse or Hill Farmstead?
So so on the same trip, my wife and I we went to both breweries. So we did a New England trip. So we hit up on that one vacation. We did Trillium, Treehouse, uh, the Alchemist.
Mhm.
Went to Hill Farmstead, and then also did Lawson's Finest Liquids.
Oh, yeah, they're good too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we hit up all those breweries. Trying to think, what was it? Oh, and then we went to, of course, Sam Adams Brewery.
Oh,
We were
yeah.
in
That's
Boston.
in Boston,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I had to go there. Which the tap room was really small. I expected this massive place, and it wasn't that big.
Well, you know what? The Boston actual brewery isn't their brewery, it's just, like, their R&D facility. Like, all the
Oh,
actual
okay.
yeah, all the actual beer is made in, like, Ohio and Pennsylvania and
Oh, no way.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That makes
it's
sense.
like
Yeah, because when we went, the facility was really small. I'm like, and I thought to myself, like, there's no way this is where this is a production brew. There's no way.
well,
Because
they do
it
make
was
the
way too
Utopia
small.
there, though.
Oh, really? Okay.
You ever had the Utopia? It's like
I have
$200 a
not.
bottle.
I have not for that reason.
Yeah.
It's funny, I'll pay 200 secondary, but I don't know about like primary for a beer. That's pretty pricey.
Well, you know, this is one of my favorite stories from all my time doing beer stuff is, there used to be this annual convention called the Beer Bloggers Conference, and, you know, it was just, like, all people who, like, had, like, beer like, when blogs were huge. I mean, Instagram was still around back then and Twitter and all that stuff, but it was, like, these are all people who just, like, wrote their own blogs,
Yeah.
or a lot of newspapers used to have, like, blog sections, which I wrote for in Albany. The big newspaper there is the Times-Union newspaper, and they had a beer blog, and the guy who was writing it, like, just kinda like, he didn't really have time to write anymore, and I don't know how, but somehow the editor who ran all the blogs, like, knew of me, and he emailed me and said, you know, "George can't write the blog anymore. Do you wanna take it over?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." And, so, like, doing that, I got invited to, like, the Beer Bloggers Conference, and yeah, so the first one I went to was in 2013 in Boston, and it's like a 2 or 3-day event, and actually, you can pay more to, like, go, like, 4 or 5 days. They just, like, go on all these excursions and stuff, you know? And we went to the Sam Adams Brewery, and, like, Jim Koch was there, and we went into, like, the barrel room, and they were passing around they had, like, I don't know, like, 10 different vintages of the Utopia,
Oh,
and
wow.
they just keep passing around, and, like, we had, like, these little, like, shot glasses, you know, like, you know, just take, like, a shot and, like,
Yeah.
pass it on. And what I kept doing was I just, like, kept, you know, taking more, and I was like, "I'm just gonna keep drinking this until somebody tells me not to, because I know this is, like, each sip that like, it's like for a shot, this is like a 20, $30 shot, you know, because
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, it's really good, like, for episode number 1000 of my show, I reviewed Sam Adams' Utopia, and,
Nice.
it was I forget which year it was, but I remember my bottle, I got it on eBay, it was, like, half empty, you know, the people sell like, you're just buying the bottle, you're not buying the beer, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, the bottle like because each bottle number is, like, it has its own number, and my bottle number was 666.
Oh, shoot.
I mean, maybe that's why the guy was trying to sell it, and,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really good beer. I don't know if, like, you would actually consider it beer, it's kinda like this beer, um, I don't know, it's almost like a liqueur because like, it's not carbonated, but it's, like it's so
Oh, is that
sweet.
why like people like you can reseal it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I've seen that and I've always wondered that. I'm like, well, wouldn't it be oxidized at that point? But I've seen people like they'll pour it and then they'll because it comes in, it looks like a mash tun, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
like a
uh,
copper yeah.
yeah, like the old school, the
The copper kettle,
Mola
yeah.
one. Yeah, and I've seen people like pour it and then they seal it. I'm like, well, wouldn't it oxidize at that point?
Um, well, it's almost like bourbon or something, you know? Because it's like depending on the vintage you get, it's like anywhere from like 25 to 30% ABV.
I was just looking that up right now. I'm like, what's the ABV on those?
Yeah, it depends by year, but yeah, it's super strong, but it's like you drink it like it's bourbon, like you would just drink like a shot, like 2
Nice.
ounces or so. It's and they make it with like a ton of maple syrup. Um,
Oh, is it with maple?
yeah.
Oh
That's where they
wow,
get like all
okay.
the sugar. And I think they use like sake yeast. It depends who it's funny because depends who you ask, because like what's the strongest beer in the world? Like there's, you know, like Brewdog was doing it,
I've had some
you
of
know.
those at a random share. I had Sink the Bismarck, and it was like
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
and it
is
came in
80
like it was in
proof.
this tiny bottle,
Yeah.
and that bottle was like $100 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. Now there's like snake venom, which I think is which has the world's record now. I think that it's like I don't know, like 80% ABV or something. It's like some ridiculous number, but it's
Dang.
like once you have like that high of
That doesn't
alcohol,
sound good though.
yeah, you're just basically drinking like rubbing alcohol. Like I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, at that point, that
It's
doesn't
all
sound enjoyable.
yeah, it's like it's freeze distilled, which I think is kind of cheating, you know, because like you're freezing it and you're just removing the water and now you're jacking up the ABV. Um yeah, and like Sam Adams, I believe they use sake yeast. You ever had that Christmas beer from Austria, Sammy Klaus?
Nuh-uh.
Um, it's 14% ABV. It's technically like a Doppelbock, like or at least the Doppelbock style. But like I always consider that like the truly strongest beer because it's brewed like beer, fermented like beer. They use beer yeast, and you know I don't I've never actually had it fresh. I've always had it old, and it always tastes like kind of like we did the Chimay review, has like
Yeah.
that lemon lollipop kind of. It's like probably like one of the sweetest beers you'll ever taste. You know, and I believe that confines to the Reinheitsgebot. I don't think they use sugar or anything to jack the ABV on it. But yeah, I mean, Sammy Klaus is fairly
Looking that up
available.
right now. Sammy Klaus?
Yeah,
Oh.
SAMICHLAUS, which is like the Austrian
Oh,
word for
Sammy
Santa
Klaus
Claus.
Classic?
Yeah, there's two. There's a classic and there's a Helles.
Oh yeah, I see
Uh,
there's the Doppelbock, yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder if that hits San Antonio for distro.
I would imagine it does. I mean, it might not you might not be able to get like the most fresh vintage, but it's the kind of beer that if it's been sitting on the shelf for a while, it's no problem.
I mean, yeah, I saw it's 14%. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you said. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't imagine age would hit that. But I had to look up Sink the Bismarck, and it was actually 41%.
Wow.
Um, and my notes, I remember I was at a share, and I'm looking at my. This is why I love Untap. You know, some people are like, "Oh, I don't do Untap," but you put your little notes on here. I had this in 2021. My note was complex AF, tastes like maybe an 18% beer.
Wow.
So I guess relatively smooth for being 41%.
Yeah. I never had it. Let me see if I can find your might be able to find your review on here.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wasn't much. Yeah, because I remember I was at a back
Yeah, I just
when
found it.
yeah, Weathered Souls, we had member shares yearly, and some guy he bought a bunch of those high ABV. Um, yep, that's my brief review on that.
Oh, that was what, like 3 years ago? December 2021.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
was when
he had.
Brewdog was actually good. I don't know. Have you ever had any Brewdog beers since then?
Oh man, no, I cannot. I heard they fell off, and then I think there was like a whole scandal with them, like with like
Yeah.
the sexual assault or maybe not assault, but like sexism within like the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's just lots of allegations. I mean, that seems to be I don't know, it seems to be a recurring theme. A lot of these huge corporations, like Uber went underneath or went through that too, like 10 years ago when they actually kicked Travis out, who was the founder of that company. I mean, I know about
For
that
that
because I'm an
reason.
Uber driver. It's one of my many jobs.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Speaking of which, what do you do for a living, if you don't mind me asking?
I actually work for United Healthcare, despite the whole stuff we're going through,
Yeah.
but I work specifically in the dental side.
Mhm.
I'm an escalation account manager, so I handle back-end projects and I also take escalated calls. So like if you ever call any company and you say, hey, like let me speak to your supervisor, well, that's me. I'm usually the guy who gets like the angry people, but for the most part, we're able to make things right. Sometimes people just get mad and like, hey, I want you to pay for my implants. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't have implant coverage. Like that's not
Yeah.
part of your benefits that you got. You're asking me to give you something that's you didn't opt for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm a veteran, so I go to the VA, and it's funny because the VA covers everything in your body except your teeth.
Teeth. Really? That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, if I have to go to a dentist and pay out of pocket. I mean, they have, like, different plans that you can
Uh,
buy, but, yeah, every time I go to the dentist, it definitely, it costs, like, a couple $100, you know? Thankfully, I've taken very good care of my teeth, um, in the last few years. You know, I'm brushing well, I don't wanna talk about dental hygiene.
yeah, right.
Um,
Well, I do that on a
yeah.
daily.
Although every time I go to the dentist, they always try to sell me on, like, braces. I'm like, "I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not gonna walk around
Right.
with braces." And they're like, "Well, you can get Invisaligners." And, like, every time I've tried to get Invisaligners, they always say, like, "Your teeth are too crooked or your gums are too red," or something like that, but I don't know.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah,
Don't
so
qualify.
it's kind of low, like, but as long as they're not, like, bleeding, and, like, and I'm not in pain,
Yeah.
and I'm brushing, so I brush, like, 2 or 3 times a day. I'm flossing constantly.
That
Every
there
every
you
time I
go,
go to
that's
the
great.
dentist, I seem to have, like, the same hygienist every time I go there, and she's like, "Oh, wow, you're really doing a good job," you know? Um, so I wanted to ask you, like, I don't know if you've seen any of the other episodes of this show. I tend to ask everybody, like, kind of the same questions, and, they're good for, making little viral clips. I don't know if you've seen on my Instagram. I've been
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
Opus clips, a lot lately. Um, one of the big questions or, popular questions I ask everybody is, I think it's easier to sell a lame beer with an awesome label than it is to sell an awesome beer with a lame label. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
Um, I'm gonna say in general, I agree, but that's such a complex question because I would follow up my question with who are you selling to? Because if you're
Mhm,
selling to a general populace, then absolutely. You're selling to the Budweiser, the Bud Light, the Blue Moon consumer.
mhm,
Sure, absolutely. If you're selling to people like us who are educated in beer, or just even your average beer nerd who
mhm,
knows what is what. Um, I mean, I think immediately I thought of Root and Branch. Their labels are the most basic labels are black and white. But people know Root and Branch is great. They're known for hazies. They do, fruited sours as well. Um, and they have very simple, I don't want to say basic, but they're very simple labels. And you just know, okay, that's Root and Branch. I want to try that.
Are they a local brewery? I never heard of them.
They're Root and Branch. They're in New York. Let me see. I can look them. I've had the pleasure of having some of their stuff.
Mhm.
I think it's Root. Their name is Root Plus Branch,
Oh,
but I
okay.
think this is Root and Branch. Yeah, they're in. Okay, you're from New York, right? Copiage. I don't know how to say that. It's Copiague. Copiage.
Hmm. Yeah, I never heard of it.
But yeah, if you look up
It's
most
either
of their
way out
art is
west or
just
somewhere
black
in
and
Long
white
Island.
character design. It's nothing fancy, and all their can art is just black and white.
Yeah, what I've been doing is I've been saving the labels from a lot of cans, which is nice because you can just peel them right off.
Hey, I do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, like this one I thought was cool. Like Four Hands has done this whole Voltron series.
Oh yeah, out in
Yeah,
St.
I have
Louis.
two of
Yeah.
them. I don't know if you ever had Anchorage out of Alaska. Like
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
their labels look like comic book labels. So I've been saving those. Like this looks like Sandman, and then other
Other
half.
half. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
like they're all their IPAs have like this like salad kind of theme to
yeah.
them. Like they're all like broccoli and kale and like here's another one. This is Toppling Goliath did
Oh, I missed that collab. I really wanted that one.
yeah. And Fat
Yeah.
Orange Cat. I don't know if you can get those in Texas.
Other half
Um
we do. Other half started distributing down here, which is really great. The only bad thing about it is by the time we get them, it's like $30 for a 4 pack.
yeah. This one I thought was cool. I got this one on Tavour just for the label.
Oh, I love
Uh
Cellar Maker. Simpsons
it says
reference.
Otto's jacket. It's like it looks exactly like the Simpsons, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a big Simpsons fan, so I was like, "Oh, I gotta get that." And like Parish Brewing, they do a lot of cool IPAs. Like this one's called Brain Cake. Like I thought this looked like an X-Men comic or something.
Oh yeah, I've been there twice. I've been to Paris twice. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in Louisiana, right?
Broussard. Yeah,
Yeah.
Broussard, Louisiana. Yeah.
This one I bought because it looks like a video game. It's actually called Up Up Down Down Left Right Left
That
Right.
narrow gauge.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've been there too. They're in St. Louis.
Okay, man, you've traveled a lot.
Yeah, I
Have you?
love my wife and I. We've always loved traveling, and she likes beer,
Mhm.
and so when we travel, we just like our honeymoon. Funny story. So when I proposed to her and we got engaged, we actually
Mhm.
planned our wedding around our honeymoon. Our honeymoon was planned around going to 𝗕𝗘𝗘𝗥 in Oregon because we both love those wild ales. We love sour beer.
Mhm.
And we planned our vacation before we planned the wedding. So we planned that out and they're like, okay, we'll get married on this date that corresponds with our flights going out there to Oregon.
Wow. Are you a fan of like kettle sours or do you prefer like the all natural wild ales?
I love both. I mean, wild ales are my absolute favorite. Those are always going to be dear to my heart. But I mean, kettle sours are great too, as long as you're not adding lactic acid to the actual brew, which is some breweries do that, but I mean, you can talk to any brewer, and almost all of them are going to tell you that's like a cheating way, because usually you'll do like a lactobacillus, which is it's a bacteria
Mhm.
that you introduce that to the wort, and then that produces lactic acid. But I have heard, and I do know some brewers just actually buy lactic acid and they throw it in the beer, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's super cheap, and you can taste it. Like I've had beers like that, and you can taste where lactic acid has been added versus where they
Really?
introduce lactobacillus to it.
Wow. This is my first time hearing about this. I mean like I know like a lot of kettle sours, some of them will have like a Greek yogurt kind of flavor to them. But
Mhm.
I mean I would have to have a side by side to like know like which has
What
it
the
added and
difference is?
which is all natural. I don't, can you get Urban Artifact where you live? Are you
No, I'm
familiar
talking
with
about
them?
where are they at? They're in Ohio, right? I'm trying to think of the.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah, I recognize the name, but no, I don't think they just showed to Texas.
Well, when I lived in Albany, one of the guys in my homebrew club, um, he is actually one of the founders and owners of Urban Artifact.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
yeah, so I used to drink his home brews, and it was funny because like now he's a professional brewer. And actually he's been on this show a couple times. It's been a while since he's been on here. His name's Brett Coleman. Um, but yeah, like Urban Artifact's pretty cool because they pretty much only make kettle sours. They're all fruit, fruit sours. Actually last year he sent me a whole bunch of like Christmas type sours that they did. They did like a figgy pudding
Oh
and
wow, okay, that
a
sounds
sugar
good.
a sugar plum sour. And yeah, they're really good. I think like the kettle sours, they kind of walk a line between like what's really beer and what's like something else. And like some of the other breweries have like just jumped beyond that. And there's now we have like these smoothie sours. Have you
Yeah,
seen these where they're like there's like
I,
super thick, like a
I
protein
love
shake
them.
or like a daiquiri,
I think a lot of
but
people gatekeep that, and I think if it's made with water, malt, yeast, and hops, and it's fermented, and I
Mhm.
think that's, and then you do whatever you want to as far as your artistic creativity, right? Because it's not just beer; it's art. I love it. I know
Yeah.
I'm in a group, and I'm in so many beer groups on Facebook, and I'm in one in particular, and they're such sticklers. Like, you post a smoothie sour and they're like, oh, that's not beer, that's not this, that's not that.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree 'cause I think that's kind of more it starts off as beer, but I think because they throw, like, so much fruit
So
or
much stuff
puree
into it.
in there, it's like it kinda depends, like, where is the alcohol coming from? Is it coming from the malt or is it coming from the fruit?
Oh, there goes your mic.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
on the mic and I don't know. Um, like, they're adding, like, so much puree, so much fruit to it. It's like
Yeah.
that alcohol is gonna be coming from the fruit, or it's like it's or maybe you can even just make an argument from, like, a texture point of view of just, like, a beer should be, like, liquid and, like, carbonated, but, like, a lot of these smoothie sours are, like, almost like a daiquiri or, um, Italian ice, or something,
Yeah.
like that kind of texture.
It's funny you say that because I think one of the more well known was 450 North, and a while back they actually got busted because they weren't properly calculating their ABV.
Mhm.
And like they were saying it was 6 or 7%, and because they were adding so much puree, it was watering it down to like 2%.
Really?
Um, yeah, and this
Oh.
this was, I don't know, maybe 2021, 2020. It was a couple years back, and they actually had to adjust the recipe. So what they did is their base was like a blonde ale, right? And they actually had to up it. So it was pretty much like an imperial blonde ale, like 9% beer. So by the time they infused all like the fruit puree or whatever adjuncts they were doing, it like brought it down to like 6% or something along those lines.
Mhm.
But
Are
yeah,
you
they had to send their beer, I remember, to Sun King because 450's in Indiana and Sun King's another Indiana brewery, and Sun King had the appropriate tools to be able to accurately measure the ABV.
Yeah. I was gonna say, are you a home brewer?
I stopped after my daughter was born. So my daughter, she turned 13 months in 4 days.
Mhm.
um, and just with life and work, and then we had this conversation before. So usually I only drink on specific days. That's because I love the gym. I love working out. I have to
Mhm.
balance. I feel like you have to balance drinking life with a healthy life.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
like that too, yeah.
yeah, because this is like, I mean, you're drinking this. This is a 17% stout with vanilla, marshmallow, and sea salt. Like, this is probably like 500 calories in a can,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
more. So, like, I
You
feel
know
like you have to work out in this.
you know how to, calculate like, there's a rule of thumb. It's not 100% accurate, but there's a rule of thumb how to calculate the calories on beer. It's, 2.5 times the ABV times the ounces. So,
Oh,
actually, let me bring this
so
up
I mean,
here.
this would probably be something unspeakable then, because it's 17%.
Alright,
I
so
don't know. I don't know
2.5
about.
it was 17 exactly.
That's what it says on the can. 17.
It's 12 ounces?
Yeah,
Okay.
12 ounces.
Alright, so whoops, I did it wrong. Alright, so 2.5 times 17 times 12 is 510.
But that's not including the marshmallow and vanilla that they
Yeah, I
added.
mean, it's just a general rule of thumb. I mean, there's probably a plus minus
Yeah.
10%, but, yeah, I'm like that too. You know what's funny is, like, I'm coming up on 50 years old, and, like I told you, I was in the Navy when I joined when I was, like, 24 or something, and, like, I was always overweight up until like a few years ago. I mean, I still have like definitely a belly here,
Yeah.
but like at one point I was probably like a good, because I'm about 5'10" and a half, 5'11". I'm not tall. I'm definitely not short. I'm like right there in the middle.
Yeah.
And like when I got out of the reserves, I was probably like a good 210 or more.
Okay.
And it's funny, you can actually I'll show you right on here. Let me show you. I remember the exact moment where I started to lose weight. Let me show you. Sorry, this dead air is not good for podcasting. All right, so see that this is the first time I ever reviewed 𝗕𝗘𝗘𝗥, it was
Nice.
January 1st, 2013, I believe, or was it 2012? January 1st, 2012.
Oh wow. Okay, I couldn't even legally drink it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
You can see how fat I am there. I was probably like a good 210 or so.
Very different.
And like I started like that was like my New Year's resolution to like, I started hitting the gym. I would get up at like
Yeah.
5 in the morning, and go to the gym. And like I wasn't like new to it. I'd been doing it for years. I just never really took it seriously. And I basically kept it off ever since then. I started running. And, like, I would count my calories, like, there's MyFitnessPal you can use, like, I would log, like, everything I ate or drank, so, like, I could see, like, at the end of the day, do I still have, like, a budget for a
Yeah.
couple hundred extra
Calories.
calories to have, like, a beer
Yeah.
like this? And, like, it's for everybody out there, if you're a beer drinker and, like, you're trying to lose weight, I definitely recommend, like, MyFitnessPal, or even if you get, like, a Fitbit like this, you can count your calories on here. Um, and then I started doing like low carb, like borderline carnivore diet a few months ago,
Okay.
and I've lost even more weight.
Nice.
Like I'm down to like about one. Last time I weighed myself, I was 161, which is like,
Oh wow. That's
yeah, that's like high school, middle school weight.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
In
don't know
my
if you can see.
fitness, I'm only 5'7", but I've always been like I love like weight lifting. That's just my
Yeah.
thing. In my fittest, and I had abs, but at being at 5'7", I was at 180. But and I think it's because just the muscle mass. Now I'm at like 230, but I'm
Oh
still
wow,
kind of chunky. But I also bench like 330 pounds.
wow.
So I have a lot of muscle mass, but I
I
have
don't
a
know if
lot
you
of
can
fat I can
see
lose.
on the door behind me. You can see the chin up bar.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
see
like
it.
every time I leave the house, I just like do a chin up or a pull up.
Nice, yeah,
And it's funny because actually, even though like I'm probably like technically in the best shape of my life, I mean, I can just tell like I'm getting older, and like you lose muscle as you get older, and
yeah,
um, like it's weird because like I used to be able to like crank out like 20 pull-ups no problem when I was like 180, 190, like in my late 20s, early 30s, and like now in my late 40s, and like even though I weigh like a good 20 pounds less, I'm still, like, it doesn't come easy. Well,
okay,
unless you're like Olympic athlete or something, pull-ups are like the hardest exercise to do.
yeah.
I don't know. Do you watch any like fitness gurus? Like I love 𝗕𝗚𝗟𝒛 𝑩𝒆𝒆. He's one of my favorites.
I don't. I just kind of, do my own thing, and
Hmm.
I was in college. While I was heavily like diving into beer because I wanted to know everything about beer. I
Hmm.
also just dove into fitness, and since I was in college, I would actually look up. We had a free access to like research papers, and if it was locked, you could just go to your library and be like, hey, can I get this? And they would buy it for you as part of your tuition.
Hmm.
And so like I would go deep into these doctoral candidates and doctors writing fitness papers, and I would look into I would get it for free. I was like, why not? I'm going to take advantage of this. So
Hmm.
I just deep dove into like fitness and stuff, and um started like learning just even like small positions, like if you're doing curls like this or bicep curls like that, like how does that impact your arms, and just the
Yeah.
smallest things and diet and nutrition.
I know it's like watching all these fitness influencers. Like, I mean, I still wouldn't consider myself an expert, but you start to notice like patterns over time. You know, like different people kind of say the same thing, and
Yeah,
even just
yeah,
like a bicep curl is like a world of difference. Is like if you just twist your arm out a little, you know, like
yeah.
it does more than just coming straight towards you. Like I don't get why, but all right, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all about motion and stuff. It's just crazy how
yeah.
the smallest things, and I guess kind of like brewing too, right? Like, circle back to beer. The smallest tweaking. You asked me if I homebrewed, and
Hmm.
just the smallest changes can make a difference in like your recipe. And actually, I had the extreme pleasure. I don't know if you saw, you probably did. I did two collabs with local breweries here in San Antonio.
Hmm.
I did a Dortmunder, which is a German lager with Cactus Land. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. The logo's super small, you probably can't see it. But I did a Dortmunder with them, and then a week later, I went and brewed a coconut pecan stout with Idle Brewing, and
Hmm.
they both came out the same week. And I was just super happy how they came out. It was crazy, just home brewing, and then being able to brew at like a professional level, or two different things. Home brewing's
Yeah.
down here, and then the professional levels off screen.
You
um
ever think about going into pro brewing?
my dream, and I do want to make it happen. I do want to pursue it. I would love to open a brewery one day. I love, ever since I started drinking, and probably maybe about 2 years into it, I was about like 23, 24, and I said, like, I want to open a brewery. I've had enough craft. I see the, excuse me, is that Chimay coming up. Um, I see the passion in it, and I would love to open a brewery one day. Like I
Yeah.
said, as soon as I got into beer, I'm like, I want to know everything about it, and that included the brewing process. Not just like, this is what a Tripel should taste like, or this is what
Yeah.
a Helles lager should taste like. Like, I want to know how to make a Helles. I want to know how to make a Tripel.
Yeah. It's funny. Actually, I don't know if you can see, I have a Kronbacher Hell right there. Like that's a
Oh yeah, yeah,
I just I just reviewed this a couple of days ago. Like this
yeah,
is
yeah. I saw that. Yeah,
yeah, I mean it's not like the best, but it's definitely, a good example of the style. Although I prefer I prefer a Pilsner to a Helles Lager because they're more hoppy, you know?
have you ever had a Dortmunder?
Yeah, they're hard to come by though. I
I
mean,
would love I would
like
love to
Dab's
send
probably the
you
most
a
popular
can
one.
of my collab with Cactus Land. I love Dortmunders because I always describe it. Somebody who, like you said, it's hard to come by. It's not a very common style.
Mhm.
But when people are asking me, like, well, what is that? Like, and I always say it's like a halfway point between a Helles and a German Pilsner. It's hoppier than a Helles. It's more full body than a Helles, but you're not quite approaching that hoppiness to like a German Pilsner.
It's,
Yet you'll have
isn't
that
it
that
very,
mouthfeel.
it's very minerally, isn't it?
Depending on the
Like it
style on how you brew it, yeah, I mean, I think that goes down to your water chemistry. And of course, it was brewed in Dortmund, hence the name Dortmunder.
yeah,
Uh, so a lot of those breweries, way back when, they didn't even do water treatment. They just brewed with the water that they had
yeah.
available
I got the specs right here. Yeah, because I
on the
remember,
BJCP.
yeah, it says characteristic ingredients: minerally water with high levels of sulfates, carbonates, and chlorides. Traditional German or Czech hops, Pilsner malt, German lager yeast, decoction mash traditional. Yeah, and they do mention it's very similar. It said it was the developed in Dortmund
Yeah,
in response to Pilsner type beers. Yeah, so I mean it's kind of like that region's version of the Pilsner, but I think it's all water. Like actually it's funny because a lot of styles are just based on the water. Like
yeah,
the Czech Pilsner came out of because they have like such soft water. And then like in England they have like such hard water, or in Ireland they have such hard water. That's why they make like, like Guinness and like those other stout type beers came
Yeah.
out of a response to just like the minerals in the water. And this is like going back hundreds of years before they had modern technology to like,
Exactly. Yeah.
analyze, they knew that if they threw in roasted malt, it kind of counteracted like that super minerally water. That's here in Florida. The water is very hard. When I lived in New York, it was the opposite. It was very soft. Like about a year ago, my girlfriend and I, we went to upstate New York where I'm from. We went to my parents' house, and I just like, I just poured a glass of water off the kitchen sink, and I gave it to my girlfriend. I was like, drink this. Because in Florida, you almost never drink tap water
No,
right off.
same here in San Antonio.
Yeah.
The whole city is on like a limestone. There's limestone
Yeah.
under everything, so we have very hard water here.
Yeah. So they must do like a lot of like, dark beer and
You would
probably like
think
very hoppy beer.
a lot of people do. I mean, it's just water treatment. It's like when I brewed with Idle when we did our pastry stout. Before actually brewing with them, I met with Brandon, the head brewer, and he showed me, the brewing equipment, and he had just finished brewing, and the mash tun, it's like double layered, and on the layer where the water comes out of, it was just caked. It was white with calcium and limestone. It was just it looked like it looked like powder. It looked like somebody
Yeah.
like threw on powder onto the metal. And we have just extremely hard water in San Antonio. But yeah, usually you just treat it with, I mean, depending on what you're brewing, you can add gypsum or whatnot to either increase or decrease the pH depending on what you're
Mhm.
trying to do.
Yeah, it's funny. Have you ever read like this is like the mother of all homebrewing books and really
How to
beer.
brew.
Yeah, by
Who is
John
that
Palmer.
by?
John Palmer.
Oh
There's
yeah,
also
he actually has a whole book on just water.
yeah,
Believe it or not, he has a whole book on just water chemistry. Yeah.
yeah. This is if you're studying for the BJCP exam, this is basically the syllabus. They draw most of the questions from this book.
Oh,
And
nice, nice.
and Charlie, that's what I was going to ask you. Are you BJCP or Cicerone certified?
I am not. I want to be BJCP. I was actually speaking with. I'm in a homebrew club here in San Antonio,
Mhm.
and they were looking for more judges, and so I'm actually going to be taking some classes soon. But my reviews, I try to stick to BJCP. Like when I do reviews, I try to do a mix of like BJCP and just kind of like a common man's approach.
Yeah.
Like I would my idea. Like when I review something, I want somebody who has never had a beer to be able to read what I put and be like, "Huh, I can taste that, or I can imagine that, I can picture that." I try to be as descriptive as possible and use, common phrases like I'll use like fresh cut grass, like everybody knows what that smells like. And
Mhm.
obviously hopefully you've never tasted fresh cut grass, but you can picture what
Like, you
that
can
tastes
yeah,
like.
you can smell it, and, like, you can almost, like, taste
Yeah.
it off the air, yeah.
Yeah, or like for like a floral, like that floral effect, you get from a lot of like hops. Like I describe it as rose petal. Like everyone has smelled roses. Like you can imagine what rose petal would taste like. Descriptors like dark chocolate or sweet chocolate, caramel, toffee, what have you. I try to make it simple and just an approachable and non-intimidating level of reading something.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen on my channel. Let me bring this up again. I've for, like, 2 or 3 years now, I've been doing this show called Tuesday Night Beer School, and, what I do is I just will grab a style out of the BJCP guidelines, and I'll grab 2 or 3 commercial examples of that style and kind of, like, analyze it to the style. Um, so it's like the viewer at home can get an idea of, like, what that style should be, although
Wow, you did a British brown ale. That's
yeah.
impressive.
Oh, yeah, Sam Smith's Nut Brown Ale, that's a great one.
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
also a style you don't see too often nowadays.
Yeah.
Wheat heavy,
Although
I love a
Cigar
wheat
City
heavy.
Maduro is and actually you can get Newcastle fairly easily, although it's funny, actually Newcastle is made by Lagunitas now in the States.
I've had Newcastle, but I feel like that's such a watered down example
Yeah,
of the
I agree.
style. Yeah.
That was the actually I'll bring it up here. The first ever review I ever did on this channel was Newcastle Brown Ale. It was October 11th of 2008.
So I'm assuming the recipe was very different way back
Yeah,
then.
well, that was actually from England when it came in a clear bottle. This is in my apartment in Albany. It's funny. It's like one of my first. What was it? Episode what 7? I was doing Dogfish Head 120 minute.
Ah, great beer, yeah.
Yeah, 18% ABV. We gotta get you on YouTube, man. You got
I
like
would love to. I just I'm assuming. Well, let me ask you, how much time do you spend on editing? Because I feel like that's a time
well,
consumer.
actually now that I'm like into a groove, it's actually not that it doesn't take me that long because like I already like once you get into like a formula or like if you I mean, this can take anywhere from a few weeks to years to I mean it's just based on your personality. Because like some people just like to ramble and ramble and ramble, you know, but like I'm which is what I did. I'm kind of like it's funny when I first started out, they were very short. Like I would just say like a few things and end in like 5 minutes. And then after a while I just started rambling. And like now I kind of come full circle where like because when I first started doing the show, I didn't really know what I was talking about. So I was just kind of like tastes like this, you know, like lots of
Yeah,
pauses, like, you know, and then once I started to learn, and then I was like just rambling on and on. And then now that like, you know, I'm BJCP and Cicerone certified, like I know what I'm talking about, I can like pick up everything like pretty much immediately. And like like for very complicated beers, like you know, we did the Chimay White, um, you know, like that's a very complex beer. So like there's lots to say about that. But something like, you know, like this, like the 𝗲𝒂𝒅'𝒛 Pilsner, this isn't a very complicated beer, although it actually is a really good example of the style. Um, you know, it's like I can do a Chimay review in like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 minutes, but like I could probably knock this out in like 4 or 5.
yeah,
My
yeah.
my target is about 6 minutes. Um, yeah, so I mean it's just like when I do my show, I kind of like what you were saying. Like to me, it's kind of like a combination of personal preference, but also judging it to spec. I mean, it just depends on the beer. Like, let me grab something. Let's see.
That microphone is great, by the way. I
Yeah.
can hear you grabbing those beers.
All right. So, like, here's a good example. Like this one, it's called Dinkle Hell, which you would think based on the label is like some kind of Helles lager, but it's not. It's it says Bavarian style spelt ale from
Okay,
Bazaar Brewing. I think they're out of Portland, Seattle.
okay,
So this is it says it's a Bavarian style spelt ale inspired by Weissbier. So it's basically like a Hefeweizen, but instead of
with
using wheat, they
spell.
use spelt. So like it's
Yeah,
technically an alternative grain beer,
yeah.
you know.
Which
So
isn't
I mean, like,
spelt like an offspring of wheat or something.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
close, but it's not the same. So I mean, like the layman would drink this and probably, you know, put it right up against Weihenstephaner or Paulaner or whatever your
yeah.
frame of
Live oak.
reference for. I mean, I always say Hefeweizen, even though like the technically the correct style is Weissbier, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like so, like that would be like a nuanced style to like you know where you have or like any beer that basically says gluten free where they use sorghum instead of actual barley, you know, like
yeah,
that's an alternative grain beer. Um, there's lots of like there's alternative sugar beers. Like you ever had Bell's Hop Slam?
yeah, yeah. They don't they brew it with honey.
Yeah. So like honey is one of the fermentables, so I mean, it counts as an alternative sugar, even though it's like a double IPA. I mean, which it is. I
Yeah.
mean, you can judge it as a double IPA too, no problem. But um, it's funny going back to my Albany days. So there's this bar in Troy, New York, called the Ruck. I don't know if you ever heard of it or not.
Uh,
Look it up if you get a chance. It's one of the best craft beer bars I've ever been to. They have like
look it up right now.
40 taps. And it's not just a bar, like, they have, like it's like a gastro pub too. It's kind of like it's also a quasi sports bar, like, there's tons of TVs there. And it's funny because, like, it depends on the time of
Oh,
day that you go, it's, like, different clientele. Like, if you go during the day, it's, like, all beer nerds. You go at night, it's all college kids trying to pick each other up, you know?
yeah.
Um,
Hey, just see what
if
that
there's a
right.
game, if you go on a Sunday afternoon during football, you know, it's like, townies and stuff. Like, they always keep like, they don't have Bud Light on tap, but they will have it in cans and bottles for people that, but otherwise, I mean, it's an awesome beer bar where they have, like, I don't know, like 30 or 40 beers on tap. They'll have, like, Hill Farmstead on tap there.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's in Troy, New York. It's not too far from Albany. And they have awesome food too. Actually, maybe we should bring up the website too. But I mean, it's like you call it a
Yeah,
gastro
I just
pub.
looked them up. I
Yeah.
typed in the Ruck, and it was the second choice on Google. So I mean,
I
they're
believe
pretty
the website
popular.
is getrucked.com.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. GetRuck.com.
Which I don't if you know anything about, rugby, the ruck is a rugby term.
I don't know anything about rugby except that it they bounce the ball.
Yeah, it's kind of like football, but, like, they're constantly doing a backwards lateral, you know? Um, yeah, so, I mean, like, it's not like I mean, they have bar food, but it's like everything is, like it's not that it's gourmet, it's just that it's, like, I don't know, hipstery or whatever, but I don't know. It's awesome. Actually, it's funny because my parents keep nagging me to come home for a visit, and I feel like coming back there, like, just to, like, hit up, like, some of my old stomping grounds,
the,
you know?
the Ruck.
But anyway, I forgot where I was going with this, but, oh, my homebrew club used to have our meetings, like, at that bar, like, on the 3rd floor, and, they have, like, kind of like a speakeasy there, you know? That was kinda cool.
At the Ruck?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
nice.
have to, like and, like, there's another one called City Beer Hall in Albany that has like, um it's an actual speakeasy from, like, the 1920s, that
Oh,
they, like,
wow.
revitalized. My homebrew club, we used to have our meetings in there, and then we got kicked out, and they moved us to the Ruck, and I don't know, it's a long story, but, um, yeah, so I would say if you're homebrewing, definitely if you don't already have this book, definitely get this because this is like I said, this is most of the syllabus for the entrance exam is based on this book, and it's like, I mean, you just have to know like this basic, because there's, you've brewed, so it's like brewing is like a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of microbiology, because you have to know like the pH and how
Yeah.
that, like the water and all the chemistry on that, and of course the yeast and bacteria and things like that. And then it's the style guidelines. Technically, the entrance exam is an open book test. So I mean, you could theoretically Google each question, but um they give you like so many questions. It's like you basically have to know them off the top of your head. Like you just wouldn't have enough
Yeah.
time to Google them. And then you have to go take a tasting exam in person somewhere. And if you're in a big city like San Antonio, I'm sure they have it at least once a year there.
Yeah, they actually I was talking with the guys and they come down from Dallas, I think, because there's not
Hmm.
an actual like location set up in San Antonio, which is crazy because we're like the seventh biggest city in the country, and
Oh, really?
um,
Wow.
yeah, San Antonio's a pretty big city, but they in Texas they're like stationed in Dallas for whatever reason. So we'd have to come back down from, or they would have to come down from Dallas to like proctor the exam.
Yeah. Well, what they'll do is, well, I mean, it probably varies by whoever's running it. Because what? So I actually had to take mine up in Jacksonville, which is about a
Okay.
2 or 3 hour drive. It's not too bad. Um, so and what they'll do is they give you, I think they give you like a flight of about 4 or 5, maybe 6 beers. Actually, man, I think it was only like
Oh, there goes your mic.
yeah,
Okay.
it's StreamYard. It's not even this mic. It's StreamYard. But
Oh,
anyway, so when you go to take the tasting exam, it's not that you have to have this whole thing memorized. I mean, that's basically impossible unless you're like a savant or whatever. But I
yeah.
mean, you've drank enough beer that like you have an idea of, and they're only going to give you like mainstream styles. Like they're not going to give you something super niche, like a Lichtenhainer or a Beardegard or like something
Or
like
Dortmunder, like, yeah.
yeah. They're just going to give you American IPA, stout,
Amber Ale.
maybe a Belgian quad. Or what they did is I remember they gave us they said judge this as a Belgian triple, and they gave us, I'm pretty sure it was Blue Moon. You know, they don't.
Diesel.
Yeah,
Oh,
so like you have to
with
like.
beer.
So imagine you're drinking Blue Moon and you're judging it as a triple, and like you would give it a low rating because you'd be like, well, this isn't nearly spicy enough or phenolic enough. The body's
Yeah.
too thin. So I mean, you've drank enough beer. I'm sure you would pass no problem. Um, that's I mean, but
That's encouraging that they.
yeah, and it's once you know that, um, it's just having that knowledge of the basic chemistry, and it's like I don't get like super stickler for styles, like because like when I judge or when I do my show, is I kind of do like what you do, where I'm judging both like two style and also personal preference. But then there's like lots of beers like maybe not today, but like 10 years ago, like anything from Dogfish Head, like you couldn't put that under a style because like everything they make was basically spiced herb vegetable or
Yeah.
fruit, or some kind of fruit beer or something,
Yeah.
like or but then like there are like say like Stone IPA or Stone Ruination, something like that, like those defined styles.
Yeah.
Stone Arrogant Bastard that single-handedly invented
That's strong
the
ale.
yeah,
American
which
strong
is kind of
ale.
ironic because like nobody really makes those anymore. Um, yeah, it's funny. Like you can't even like get like a clear IPA anymore, other than like Dogfish 60 or 90 minute or Stone IPA. Everything is just hazy. I'm
Yeah.
like really over hazies at this point.
I think I mean California is still sticking true. I mean you have North Park, which I think they're known for hazies, but they're doing some West Coast.
Mhm.
Obviously Russian River is still killing. With Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger, they're still killing it with those Blind Pig. Local brewery. I think I talked about this on the review. Thirsty Pups. He does
Mhm.
some really great West Coast IPAs, and they're just he does hazies too, but his West Coast. I think I reviewed one recently called "I'm a Loner Dottie, a Rebel." It was like a forget the
Oh,
reference.
Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was named after that, and that was just a West Coast IPA, and it was fantastic. I was like, man, like you're really like he knows what he's doing with his hops, and it's so great to see a brewery that does
Mhm.
hazies and that does West Coast just as great.
I'm looking at your, Instagram. I saw you reviewed a, Fidens beer. They're actually out of Albany.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, Fidens. If you like haze, I mean, they're just. I think they're undisputably doing the best haze right now.
Yeah, they're kinda like the next Treehouse from what I hear.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I think at this point they've probably surpassed Treehouse as far as quality of like the haze. Maybe
Mhm.
not quantity, but yeah, Fidens is doing just ridiculous, ridiculous
Yeah.
things with the haze.
It's funny because they opened, like, right after I left.
Oh
I
man,
can't get their
yeah.
beer in Florida, so, I mean, that's another temptation to go home too.
Hey, go,
Um,
hey, go hit up
yeah.
Fidens and send me some.
Well, I don't mind going up there in the summer. I just don't wanna go up there in the winter because, like, I hate being cold indoor. Like, you're from Texas, but, I mean, if you go up north in the winter, like, it's just you have to have the heat on inside all the time. You're just like,
Yeah.
I don't mind if I'm outside. I don't mind. It can be 50 below zero. I don't mind. But when it's like 68 degrees indoors, that drives me crazy. Where you're just like a little chilly, like
Yeah.
somebody has the AC on, a little too intense. That
Yeah.
drives
I,
me crazy.
I
Like,
love the cold, man. I'm a Texas
mhm,
boy, born and raised, but I just man, I love when it gets cold. And it doesn't even get that cold here. I mean, the lowest I think I've ever seen here in Texas, I think maybe one freak winter we hit like 18 degrees. And
uh-huh.
then that was like the absolute lowest I've ever
Ever
seen.
snowed there?
Yeah, we had that freak snowstorm in was it 2021?
Mhm,
Um, we actually it blanketed snow like it stayed. I mean, I was outside making snowman and throwing snowballs, and I thought it was great. Unfortunately, a lot of the state wasn't prepared. Our power grid over
mhm.
um, what's the word? It got overworked, so a lot of people throughout the entire state lost power. People weren't prepared. They weren't letting their pipes strip. Pipes burst. Thankfully, we weren't affected by any of that. So I was
Yeah.
having a blast.
Do you guys do you ever get hit by hurricanes?
No, not this far inland. I
I
mean,
know
we'll feel
Houston
like the
does every once
wind.
in a while.
Houston, yeah, Houston. Unfortunately, will get hit a lot. They get flooded a lot. San Antonio, thankfully, I mean, we're a relatively good city as far as like natural disasters.
Mhm,
Uh, I mean, we've had like a tornado, but it was like super, like knocked down like a power line or something.
mhm,
I think we've had earthquakes recently, but they were super low magnitudes, like in the threes.
mhm.
Um, like San Antonio, as far as natural disasters go, is a pretty good city to be in.
Yeah, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Um, where do you get most of your beer from? Do you just go to the local beer stores or Total Wine, or do you get anything online to do
Uh,
trade?
so Tavour, actually, I don't know if I still have a code. Tavour actually made a little sponsorship with me. If you've never had Tavour, and like I said, I don't know if it's still active. It was like a couple months ago when I checked. But if you never had Tavour and you sign up, and if you sign up with code review this, like
Mhm.
you get like 20% off your first order.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of times I just buy. I'm in different Facebook groups, and they're just like, hey, here's a 4 pack of mixed monkish. Who wants this? And I'm like, oh, I'll buy it.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
same thing. Or Osner. Do you have that app?
I use Tavor or Tavor, whatever. I always pronounce it Tavor, but it probably is because like I think it would be like rhyme with flavor, so it probably is Tavor.
Oh, maybe I don't. I always call
Yeah.
it Tavor. I guess it also depends on like where you're like
Yeah,
how you
I
pronounce
actually
stuff.
had to call them once, and I got their answering machine, and it said, "Thanks for calling Tavor." I was like, "Alright,
Uh,
I guess that's what it is." Um,
but
yeah.
Osner's great because Osner it's directly to the breweries, and that's how I got this beer from Half Acre. So they'll release a beer on Osner, which is directly linked to them.
Osner? How do you spell it?
Yeah, it's OZN. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's OZNR. Maybe it's
Oh,
Osner. I thought Osner. It's an app, and you get directly linked to the breweries, and that they
oh, yeah,
drop their sales. And all you need is a proxy. So thankfully, I have a good friend up in Chicago. That's where Half Acre is, and so I mean, you just like instant buy something. Yeah, there you go. You just
what the
buy it.
hell is an Osner?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I'll have to check
No,
this out.
it's great. Maybe it's not great for your bank account, but it's great if you want beer.
Yeah.
Um, and you can get a lot of great breweries like Three Sons. That's how I get a lot of my Three Sons bottles.
Mhm.
They just sell it on Osner, and you just got to make sure you have someone out there who can pick it up for you.
Three Sons, aren't they a Florida brewery?
Yeah, they're in Dania Beach, which is just north of Miami.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna yeah. They have a beer called, Crispy Boys or something that I had.
Oh yeah,
Um,
was that a pilsner? Some kind of
yeah,
lager or something? Yeah.
it was like a rice lager or something. Um, who is like the taste maker for you? Like who do you like who do you follow or whatever? Where like if they say that they like a beer, where you're like, oh, I gotta have that, you know?
Um, like on Instagram or just anybody I follow.
In general, you know.
Um, like as far as like an influencer, there's I have a friend. She go on her Instagram handles B Nico. It's like some number. But we've been Instagram friends for a while, and she posts some stuff. Like sometimes she posts a lot of stuff that I'll get. Sometimes she posts something. Just the way that she takes her pictures. Like I'm not fancy with photography. I do the same angle all the time. I'm like you showed my Instagram earlier. Like I don't have a nick for that. But sometimes she just posts stuff. I'm like, man, that looks really great. Or like she loves West Coast IPAs. So like and like she somehow nails that clarity, just that blonde clear beer.
She's on Instagram?
Yeah, hold on.
What's her username?
It's on look up right now. It's let me see. It's okay, yeah, it's the letter B,
Mhm.
Nico, Nico 2004. And
I
so
found her.
I've yeah, we've been friends for a long time, and she just sometimes it's those West Coast
I've
IPAs,
already
just the way she captures those photos, and it's like, man, I really want that.
Yeah, this is the account you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
friend.
Wow, this
She does
person
the
has over 12,000 followers.
Yeah, it's cool. We actually met. She came to San Antonio once, and we met before, and she's really cool. Her and her husband, but yeah, she posts a lot of. She loves West Coast. I mean, you can see she posts a little of everything, but like just the way she takes the photos. Like, look at that. Like that North
Yeah.
Park right there. That's like I got into North Park because of her.
See a
Really,
treehouse
yeah. She gets a lot of
in the brewery.
treehouse. But just the way she captured those photos, I'm like, man,
Treehouse.
that makes me want more West Coast
Yeah.
IPAs.
Alright, I'm gonna message her and see if I can get her on the pod what's her real name? Just Nico?
Kim.
Okay. Maybe I'll tell her that we talked about her on this show.
Oh yeah. Shout out Kim, B Nico. But yeah,
Do you
she
have
we've been friends for a long time. Yeah.
do you have a website or you just use Instagram and Untapped?
Oh, and Instagram. I used to have a website a long time ago. I did a GoDaddy. I had it was just beerreviewer.com.
Mhm.
That's kind of why I like we were talking about different names for myself, but I just liked it because I am beer reviewer. Like I'm not the beer reviewer. I'm not a beer. Like I'm just beer underscore reviewer, and I'm just holding on to that name because I know if I were to get rid of it, I know
Yeah.
somebody else would probably swoop in and take that.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for, like, having, a generic name, like, there was this guy on YouTube way back in the day when we first started, like, 2009 or something. He had a his username was just video beer reviews, and I was like, "Wow, that's, like, so direct and, like, to the point and honest,"
Yeah,
like, youtube.com/video beer reviews, and then he later changed it to Bike Beer Barbecue, and then he later deleted his whole account. Um, Long story on that, but yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend, even though, um, I actually YouTube, TikTok, or like what I do is I post everything on all three, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. At least my shorts, like the long form content like this, will only be on YouTube. And
okay, yeah,
like there's also Rumble and Odyssey too, but like hardly anybody uses that for beer content. But yeah, I would say if you can get into doing video stuff, um, and also like actually talking about it, I think it'll help. It kind of like helps, like once you start talking, like you hear yourself say it out loud. Like when you're actually writing it, you can kind of it just kind of helps you edit it, Like
yeah,
I'm kind of like when I'm talking, I'm like rambling and I'm not like but like when I'm writing, it's the opposite. Like I'm just like being like super critical. Like when writing those Untap reviews, you only get like it's like a tweet. You only get like what 240 characters or something like that. You know?
Yeah, and it used to be worse. So for when I first got into beer, like I had said, I love Beer Advocate, and then somebody's like, "Oh, like do you use Untapped?" I'm like, well, what's Untapped? And I remember back in the day, Untapped used to be like 50 characters, and
Yeah, it was
there was no
it
way
was
you could do a full review. And so for I
yeah.
made an Untapped, and for like 2 years, I didn't bother using it because I'm like I can't do a full review on this. And then it's like people were like, "Oh, well, it was just it's easier to use in Beer Advocate." At the time, Beer Advocate didn't have an app. I think maybe they do now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I
I
haven't used
like it's so much appeal with the badges and checking in and friends and all that, toasting each
yeah,
other.
I don't care about the badges, you know?
Oh, I
Like,
love
every
that. I
time I
love
check
doing the
into, like,
badges.
I check into, like, any random beer and, like, it's gonna give me, like, 3 badges, you know?
Yeah.
And what they should do is, like, each badge should be, like, an exponential like, it should be, like, like, instead of just plus 5 more, it should be like, it should be like, binary, like 2, 4, 8,
Right?
16, 32, something like that, where you don't get them as often, where you have to double your number to, like, get the next badge or like, if the
Yeah,
badge
because there was a
actually gave
point
you
where they
anything.
only hit up like 50 and that was the max, and now it's like 100. Like my favorite badge is find the source, is like where you drink a beer at, like you go to the brewery. And
Yeah.
that's my favorite one to get. It's because I've been to like I think I'm at like 330 different breweries.
Mhm.
But I think the max level is like if you once you hit 500 breweries, that's it. Like you don't get that badge anymore.
I know, it's not like you get anything for it. I mean, I know, like, Untapped is actually kind of like their own Tavour now where they sell beer online there. Like, if you get badges and they give you, like, a discount, like, that might be, like,
That'd be
something to
cool. Right?
chase, like, you're gonna get an extra 5% off or whatever. Like, that might be worth it, but, like, I'm looking on my Untapped right now, I'm at 3,668 badges. I remember when I got my girlfriend into it about a year ago, and she's only been on there for, like, a year and a half, not even, and she already has, like, a couple 100 badges.
Yeah. It's funny. I just signed my mom up for Untapped. When she came to both releases, the collabs I did with the local breweries, and at the Cactus Land one, I was like, I'm making you an Untapped, and you're gonna check into Untapped.
I know,
Uh,
I had to I don't know, I mean, it's just like, if you're into beer and it's like Untapped is just like a, diary, so it's like because when I go to the beer store, there's so many beers where I can't remember if I had it, you just scan the barcode, and you see your review from, like, years ago, and you're like, "I
yeah.
hated it." I'm like, "Alright, well, I'm not gonna get it again," or, "I loved it," and it's like, usually I remember if I love it, you know? Um, yeah, anyway, we're going pretty long here, so, I'm gonna put links to all your stuff. Do you still use Beer Advocate, or are you just on Untapped now?
Oh no, this is Untapped. I mean, my beer advocate, I'd probably be like cringe reviews of like
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I don't
old
know.
school flavors.
Didn't Untap buy Beer Advocate? I don't know anybody that actually really uses Beer Advocate anymore. I feel like
Oh,
it's
I
like
don't
so
know.
2010, you know?
Maybe I don't know.
I got
I
kicked
know
off that
that's how
site.
I learned about all my styles, and like they had like glassware like recommendations and
Mhm,
serving temperatures, and I just like did like I just memorize all that. I'm like I want to memorize all this.
mhm. Yeah, I got kicked off Beer Advocate like 2009 or 10, something like that, because I was, like, following accounts on Twitter that were, like, trolling the brothers, and, like, I hardly even use Beer Advocate. But, like, they saw that, like, I liked somebody's tweets, and then they blocked my account on Beer Advocate, and like, that sent me to a rage because, like, I didn't break
Yeah,
any
right.
rules on Beer Advocate. Oh, there's this awesome book you should get. Um, I don't know if you ever read this, The Beer Geek Handbook from
Uh-uh.
Patrick Dawson.
Oh, okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, this
Patrick
beer
Dawson.
I feel like when I was reading this book, I was like, "Oh my god," like, this I feel like I was writing this book. They actually mention like, it's, like, full of, like, all that inside beer nerd insider stuff that, like, because they even, like, talk about, like, the brothers on Beer Advocate, and they mention, like, the rock stars of craft beer, like Sam Calagione and, Garrett Oliver and people like that. Like you have to be like in the know to know what they're
Yeah.
talking about. But yeah, this book is like super breezy, and it's really interesting. Um, it's pretty funny at times too. It's fairly cheap. It's only $15.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
if you
that's pretty cheap.
yeah, definitely check this out on Amazon. I'm gonna try to get this guy on the show,
And
Patrick
you said
Dawson.
it was Patrick Dawson, right? Beer Geek.
Yeah, the
Okay,
Beer
yeah, I
Geek
wrote that
Handbook.
down. A Beer
I would
Geek.
like to
Okay.
write if I've ever had time to just sit down and write another book on beer. Actually, I was trying to tell the publisher of this book we should do a whole series, like the Handbook of IPAs or the Handbook of
That would
Belgian
be
Ale.
amazing. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
read that.
like this company, they mostly do like wine and cookbooks, and like they just kind of did this as an experiment to see if they could get into like the beer space, and it didn't really pan out for them. So every
Oh
time I
man.
emailed them, they're just like, nah, there's not like actually there isn't really much money in beer books anymore. I mean, this came out in 2014, and by then, like Untapped had taken off, and because they're kind of like once you put it in print, like so many beers that are in this book, like they don't even make anymore. So it's kind of like, what's the
Yeah.
point? Or you review like the mainstay stuff, and it's kind of like everybody's already familiar with it. Um,
Nowadays, like so many people do so many variants
like
of
yeah, like
everything.
Guinness Foreign Extra Stout. I mean, like that's I don't know. That's kind of I mean, it's a good beer, but I mean, by like beer nerd standards, it's like basic bitch. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like
I
if
don't
you
know
can
if you
buy it at the supermarket, the beer nerd's not interested in it.
I don't know if you saw they who I forgot the company that it was, but they came out with the top stout makers in the world, and
Mhm.
Guinness got number one and Side Project was number two. And you ask any beer nerd, everyone's going to tell you Side Project over Guinness. But
Yeah.
whatever, I don't know
I
how
mean,
they did their
if you're
math.
going by quantity, yeah.
Maybe, but even then,
Yeah.
quantity. I think there's a lot of breweries that would outsell Side Project. Um,
Yeah. I
maybe,
mean,
but
Guinness extra or regular Guinness draft stout. I mean, that's probably the best selling ale in the world. I can't think of
oh
it
yeah,
better.
it's ubiquitous. I mean, even down here, I mean, it's on shelves. You can go to most bars, and even like a dive bar, they'll have like a Guinness down there.
Have you ever tried the Gonster?
Gonster?
Yeah, that's
No,
Guinness
I
and
have no
Monster.
idea what that is.
Let me before I let you go, let me show you this. So go to a local like wherever you get energy drinks if they have like a decent selection. Because there's this one version of Monster. It's called Monster Super Dry, and it tastes just like orange juice. It's green, and it's actually nitro like Guinness. Let me show you. Here we go. So I didn't invent this. I just saw it on Instagram, and it's what you do is you take regular Guinness and then you take Monster
Monster
Super.
Super Dry.
Yeah, and like I have this thing called like the perfect black and tan, where you like it makes the like so the Guinness doesn't just blend, it floats on top.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
so I mean, it's like black on top and green on the bottom.
I'm not
And
gonna lie, that sounds like stomach issues after
yeah,
you.
actually, like that's I think it's kind of like a parody of like there's like a whoops, uh, sorry, um, like a hood drink is mixing Guinness and orange juice, and that's what that Guinness and Monster is. Because like that, you have to get this super dry because it's green, and it tastes like Guinness and orange juice, and you would think that's gross, but it actually tastes pretty good.
That does sound. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty awful. Goodness and
Yeah,
orange
until
juice.
you try it, or you could try Guinness and champagne too. That's one of my favorite things in beer is like when flavors that you wouldn't think work do.
Yeah,
Like you're like you just like read the label on a can, you're just like it has like this, A, B, C, and F ingredients, and you're just like, oh, that'll never work, and you drink it, and you're like, all right, that did work. You know,
yeah. I
that's
remember the first time I experienced that was Funky Buddha back before they sold out. They had a bourbon barrel aged chocolate orange stout, and I remember thinking chocolate and orange. This sounds horrible. and I
Yeah.
drank it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great."
Well, Funky Buddha bought their brand back. They're independent
No
again.
way.
Yeah.
What?
They
Oh
yeah, they're
man,
not owned by
I'm about
Constellation
to go tell
anymore.
my wife. She
Yeah.
actually she toured them because she used to travel a lot for work. She toured them, and like the month before they sold out, she went. And it was
Yeah.
funny because they were telling everybody on tour, like, "Oh yeah, we're never gonna sell out. We have no plans." And then literally a month later, they sold
Yeah.
out.
The same thing that's what happened to Cigar City. They got bought out by Monster.
Monster,
Yeah.
yeah. I know a lot of people are boycotting them because they ended up firing like their whole production staff and
Yeah. It's
uh
funny 'cause the brewery in Tampa, they don't even make beer there anymore. They make hard Monster.
that's where all the alcoholic monsters are made.
Yeah. I was actually friends with Wayne Wombles. He was
Oh
their
no way. The
brewmaster.
brewery, yeah.
Yeah. Back in, like, the glory days of Facebook, like, 2009 to, like, 2015 or so,
Yeah.
and, like, remember, like, there was, like, a limit of, like, 5,000 friends on Facebook. I think I had, like, 4,999. Now I
Oh
have,
yeah.
like, maybe 100.
Yeah, right.
I'd, like, never use Facebook. I look at I use Facebook to just see what my family's up to, and so they can see what I'm up to, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's just Facebook is just, like, all ads now. I'm like, "What do I need this thing for?"
My Instagram feeds to my Facebook, so all my reviews.
Mhm.
So I like it because I have a lot of friends that are, from high school, junior high, college that never really quite got into craft, but they'll look at my reviews and they'll be like, "Hey, that sounds really good," or "This is intriguing," and,
Yeah.
and like I said, I try to make my reviews as simple as possible
Yeah,
for
me
that
too.
reason. Because if you never had a beer or craft beer and all you've ever had was Bud Light or Michelob Ultra or whatever, um, my goal is I want you to be able to read this and be like, "Hey, this sounds good," or "This would be something I'd be interested in trying."
Yeah. Alright, we're coming up on 2 hours. This is I didn't think we were gonna go this long, and I didn't have, like, any questions or anything prepared, and I was like, "Ah, we'll probably just go an hour and that's it," and we're coming up on 2, so yeah. Thanks to Mateo for doing this and the Chimay White review. I'll put links everywhere. Um, and yeah, so thanks for doing this. And yeah, we should definitely do another review sometime. Or if you ever
Yeah,
want to start
absolutely,
doing your
man.
own,
This was great meeting you. This was like just talking with a friend. Like honestly, I was kind of nervous and telling my wife, I'm like, what if I have nothing to say? Like it's just
yeah,
gonna be like awkward silence, and that wasn't the case, thankfully.
yeah, that it's funny. That's always the best episodes of this show is like where I'm just like, it's just gonna be an hour and we'll be done, and then we end up talking forever. And it's kind of like there's actually been people where I've really prepped for, and like I had like a whole set of questions, and some people are just like really tight-lipped and they don't really have like a whole lot to say. You like ask them a question, they just say yes, you know,
Right?
yes or they just give you a yes or no answer, and
How do
I'm
you
like,
feel about this? Yes.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right.
Well, once again, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep.
I'm very grateful. Yeah, I'd love to do this again.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna end this now. Don't hang up, and I will see you guys around. Sorry, I'm out of beer. I don't have anything to cheers you with, so I'll
Yeah,
just
me
say,
too. Right
yeah.
now, I
All right.
17%er.
All right. I'll see you later. Bye.